The 50-minute rundown. All right, everyone. This is the Nick and Steve podcast, but now we've just renamed this to
the 50-minute rundown.
Yeah. It took a lot of effort to get to that name. So, Steve, you want to tell us a little synopsis about how we got there?
Yeah, we wanted to do something with running. We did some searches with running. Rundown came up as an alternative. We thought, well, that's perfect for the double meaning. And then we wanted to add something more because when you type in the rundown in Google, the first thing that comes up, in fact, the whole page, is just about the Rundown movie. So this would eliminate us ever getting good,
famous.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's like obviously a high consideration for us here.
Yeah, you don't want to be famous.
So to eliminate, we tried adding different adjectives, and it's actually really hard to find a good adjective for the rundown. And the big debate at the end was whether or not we wanted to go with the rundown in 50 or the 50-minute rundown. And we ended up siding with the 50-minute rundown.
More because Steve just wouldn't accept any podcast name that I came up with.
So
anyways.
Not a full story.
So today we're going to be talking about productivity, and we've entitled this podcast Productivenessicity because it just fits the title. With us we have Paul DeMott. Paul, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Paul DeMott. I'm a entrepreneur student at University of Cincinnati, and productivity is important to me because I'm an entrepreneur student, and as everyone knows, entrepreneurs have to work all the time. So, I want to be able to enjoy life while starting businesses and stuff. So, I guess that's why they had me on here.
Yeah. So, basically, Paul is going to be talking to us a little bit about his ideas in productivity. He's been doing a lot of research in a lot of different books, and he's even wrote his own book. But on a different topic. But he just wants to talk to us today a little bit about some techniques that he's come up with down the road. And I know Steve has some ideas too, so we'll see what we can get to in these 50 minutes. So, Paul, why don't you go ahead?
Sure, okay. Well, the big thing about productivity, at least I think, is to have a system that works. If you don't have a system in this day and age, I think you'll just get ran over by everyone else.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of systems out there and stuff, and so I think it's important to experiment and see which one works. I've personally found one system to be far superior to everyone else's.
The Pauli principle?
It's not the Pauli. It has nothing to do with me, but it's a combination of...
Does it exclude anybody? No, I'm just kidding.
It's a combination of a person's work named David Allen and this online guy I read. He's awesome, but I can't recall his name at the moment.
That's cool.
So anyway, David Allen's system, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, it's called Get Things Done.
I have heard of it. I have not researched it, but a guy from Zen Habits blog.
Oh yeah, Zen Habits is great, yeah. Well, there's a couple main principles or whatever that go with Get Things Done that I think really help. The first thing that you do in Get Things Done is you write down anything that ever comes to your mind that you have to do. Kind of an idea. One of the reasons why we're not productive, I think, is because our thoughts are just kind of wandering all the time, and we have to do something, but often we don't.
Anti-productivity, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so one of the first things that you do is you write everything down, and so on my phone, I have an app. And whenever something comes to my mind, I write it down. And what happens, and it's actually, they've done some psychological studies on this too, is that when you write stuff down, it gets out of your subconscious mind. A lot of stuff cycles. And until you write it down and have a system that you're confident in that gets it done, it's just going to keep coming back. So let's say that you have to walk your dog later. Mm-hmm. If you don't do it, or if you don't make a plan to do it, it's just going to keep coming back and rotating your mind. But as soon as you write it down, a lot of people think you actually have to do it to get out of your mind. But just writing it down, psychology studies have shown, helps you clear your mind and be more relaxed.
Just a second while I write that down.
Okay, got it. So basically, So whenever you have a thought of something you have to do, you kind of have your to-do list and you just jot it down right away on your phone or whatever is available.
So so that's the first step to it. The next thing that he really like preaches and stuff is that people are really bad about figuring out what the next action is, like the next step. So for let's take the example of like you have to get like new tires or something. A lot of people will write down on their to-do list, get new tires, but in reality, there's a lot of other things that go into getting new tires. And one thing that prevents people from getting stuff done is that they write down these really ambiguous goals. Write a book, get tires and stuff, and they don't get it done because, they see get tires, write a book, and they just don't know what to do.
Yeah, right.
And so, like, what you do, what David Allen teaches is that you come up with a next action plan. So next step, but he said you have to work on it. It's a skill that you develop. And so, for example, like getting tires or something, you might go on the internet and compare prices between two different things, and then after that, you might do this. And so, like, when you simplify the next step, it gives you some more clarity of mind, but also, it gives you something that's easy to do. Like,
right, yeah.
Going to get tires might be kind of easy and stuff.
Yeah.
But like writing a book is not just, you have to come up with the plans, like do the research to write it, do that stuff. And by simplifying it to a next step, I think that really helps people get stuff done.
Got it. Okay. So basically, on your to-do list, try to be as specific as you can and make maybe multiple steps that are very specific to get that one big task completed.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And you don't have to do it, you don't have to like sit down and like plan it all out at once. Like you don't just sit down on Sunday and like say I want to do this and then write all the steps down. You just always go for the next action.
Okay. So you complete step A and then all you have to do is draft step B. And then once you hit step B, you'll draft step C.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And so the way I have it is whenever something comes to my mind that I have to do, I jot it down in my app. And then at different points in the day, like 2 times a day maybe, I'll go through the list. And I'll look at each one. And so there's some quick rules that really help. So first off, if you can do it in 2 minutes, then just get it done. So I'll have stuff on my list that maybe takes 2 minutes, like send an email to Nick. He's awesome.
That's actually like a 2-hour thing, right?
Yeah, sorry, I meant 2 hours.
Notifications and everything.
Right. So if you first go through the list, if anything takes 2 minutes, you just do it. Next, you go through the list and you think, what's the next step for each one? Mm-hmm. If the next step doesn't seem reasonable to do at the time, you just put it in a folder to do later. And so different times during the day, I'll look at my list, go through, and kind of apply this system. And it really just having a system kind of instills confidence that you can get stuff done whenever it comes up.
Yeah.
And you'll find yourself, like, I found myself as soon as I started doing it, like, you get sort of a high from just completing task after task. So I would just sit there and like in an hour, complete like 50 things I've been meaning to complete like in a year.
But if you're doing all these like check marks and writing everything down, doesn't that add up? I mean, writing like 15 tasks or 50 tasks, that's gotta take some time. That's gotta be like 10 minutes at least, or 15.
Oh, to write stuff down?
Yeah, write it all down and to check it all off. If it's like 50 tasks.
Well, I'd say at any given time I have about 30, 40 different tasks down. And
per day? Or just like to do
just
in the future?
On my list, just to do in the future.
Okay.
And some of them would take forever to do.
Oh, okay.
Like, I want to get them done in that's like 3 years. And then some of them, so those ones are quick. I just like, no, I'm not doing that today. Or I might think like next action and like maybe work a little bit towards that or something.
Got it.
But it's a quick process. You just go through really quickly. Writing stuff down, you don't write it down all at once. You write it down when it comes to your mind. So the writing down part just takes like 2 seconds every time you get a new thought of something you have to do.
Yeah.
And it really, that just gives you a lot of confidence. A lot of times we think of stuff we have to do and then we just forget to do it.
Right.
And so it's nice to just know that on your phone you have this.
Yeah.
I guess that's the big advantage of that system, because then you don't have to put energy into trying to remember to do it later.
Yeah, so you save energy. And a big part of it is just clarity of mind, like being able to just be like more in the moment and focus on what you're doing instead of having to worry about, you have to complete this homework. Because, like if you have like a test next week, often it stresses your time that you're in now, and you, especially in engineering, so not so much in business school, but it stresses your time out until that test. But like you clear it out, you have a system that works, gets it off your mind, and then you can relax and enjoy the time that you're off.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So, Steve, did you want to mention any of your tactics or your approach that you like for productivity? Or
one tactic that's quite similar to this is I use the site Workflowy. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah,
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Essentially, it's a bullet list that is infinitely bulletable, and so you can use it for all sorts of things. I essentially put my whole life in there, so chores or
so if someone were to hack in,
it would be very dangerous. Yeah, it's a lot of information, but just like random things that I would normally store on a note and then lose it later, like the address of my aunt when I have to write her a thank you note.
Oh, wow.
So that sounds very similar, because that's kind of the idea of just write stuff down.
Yeah, what was the name of your app that you used?
I
you don't have it? Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to, Sorry, so Workflowy, yeah.
There's a lot of features to it that I don't necessarily use, but like you can add labels, and it's really easy for searching. And so this website actually, when my last co-op, I was researching different statistical models for blood pressure, and there was I probably read 60 different articles in reference to this, and there was no way to understand fully or to remember all those sites. And so I ended up indexing everything in Workflowy, taking the abstracts, and then so if there was something I wanted to look up, if any of my articles were relevant, I could just go in and search all of my Workflowy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's fantastic. Oh my gosh.
So it seems like a key to a good system, first off, is to get everything on paper.
Right.
I think any system that doesn't do that is probably not going to be effective.
Or like on your phone or something. Get it off your mind and get it organized. But one question I have for you, Paul, is you mentioned you have this list of you might have like 50 things. I think a key point of productivity is to prioritize that list. How do you prioritize your list, or do you, or is there a method you go about to do that?
That's actually a good question. A lot of people teach prioritizing your next action type stuff, and my app even has a section to prioritize them. Like Stephen Covey talks about best to do this first, and then always have a schedule where you do stuff, and some stuff's more important than others. I found personally though that I don't really need a system like that. The 2-minute rule is really as far as I go. Anything I can do in 2 minutes, I get done first.
Okay, so that's the 2-minute rule. Anything you get done that you can get done in 2 minutes that crops up, you just automatically do it, no questions.
Yes. And then I have a calendar where I have due dates and stuff, and so anything that needs to be done sooner than later. Yeah, I've found from doing some online classes and stuff that I tend to like to do stuff that's harder first, because I find if I do the easier stuff first, if I do the hard stuff first, then I will have the energy to do the easier stuff later. But if you do the easy stuff first, you're kind of just pushing yourself down a hole where it just gets more stressful to do the hard stuff.
You're building up anticipation for what you haven't done yet, and then it grows in your head.
You mentioned you use a calendar. Is it like a app or
it corresponds with the app.
Oh, okay.
So if I have homework due a certain day, I put it down, and so that's really as far as I go on prioritizing.
Got it.
Is 2-minute rule, and when does it due, and then if something's harder, I like to get it done first when I have the energy. I guess another part is you have the energy early in the morning, or maybe it's in the evening when you do your work.
Yeah, before you have the essay due the night, before type of thing. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say another thing about the David Allen system is that one thing that David Allen preaches is that people have these huge goals that they want to accomplish, but the reason why many people don't accomplish them is because they have all these tiny little things that they need to complete, and they just don't get them done.
Those tiny little things to get to the big goal.
Yeah, you need to first be able to complete those little things before you get to the day-to-day stuff has to be done before you start thinking about writing a book, per se.
Yeah. Or buying a mic for a podcast.
yeah. And so the idea of the system is that you don't really have to prioritize, because you get home from a stressful day at work and you don't want to go into writing a book. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just such a big project. You want to just
You want to
you
do a
have
small
these
task.
small little tasks that you can just
Yeah.
complete, and you can just open your list and complete them. So you really just do it based on when you have the energy to do
Okay.
stuff.
And by doing that too, I think a thing that's gained is that you can evaluate whether or not that the larger goal is actually achievable. Where if you never broke it down, you wouldn't find that out. So if you're not willing to take the small step, then what are you?
Right. And then next
Yeah.
action stuff. It's like those are you break big stuff into small next action stuff that you can do, and exactly like what you're saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. So we're about 15 minutes in. I think we've talked about the next action.
Yeah.
Prioritizing goals, and you mentioned about that, like the 2-minute rule, and then doing step A, and then once you complete step A, you draft step B, and
don't stress about drafting everything at the beginning. Like, get something done, and then you come up with the next step, and just always keep stuff simple.
Okay.
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
So how long? When did you find out about this system, and did you see a jump in your productivity? Or
Oh
has
yeah,
this helped you?
yeah. I mean, like, one thing I was saying is that as soon as I found out about this system and I started using it, you get like a high just from completing a list. I mean, there's definitely you get some serotonin uptake by clicking the check mark and stuff. And so, yeah, I think a big part, like, I would forget to do stuff, and so writing everything down stopped that. Like, whenever it comes to my mind, and I just feel like I have a lot more clear of mind. I don't have to worry about doing this and that because I know this works. But at the same time, I've been doing this system for like 4 months or so. But at the same time, it's not like necessarily super easy to implement. You get better at it. Like, right away, you're going to benefit from some of the main principles, like the 2-minute rule, writing everything down, next action. Those are things that you benefit right away. But to make the habit of every day doing this. I found a lot of times, like, I'd do it for like 3 days, and then 4th day I'd be hanging out with my friends, and I'd forget to do anything on it. And then you can quickly fall off the loop. So I think you have to kind of approach it as it's going to be difficult to change a habit in your life. And so you just have to,
stick and commit.
You gotta stick and commit, and I guess because it's rewarding to check stuff off and feel confident that you can get stuff done, it makes it a little bit easier to change as a habit than a lot of stuff that you want to change, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, I think those 3 points you said are just really solid. Write everything down, 2-minute rule, and next action. Steve, is there like another aspect that you wanted to talk about, maybe?
Yeah, there's a couple different things that came to mind when I was thinking about productivity, but another one is just exercise and nutrition.
Oh yeah, actually, it's funny you said that. On this paper, I wrote E for exercise, D for diet, and R for relaxation. So that's about to
Yeah, why don't we talk about all 3 of those?
Okay.
Yeah, you want to start with exercise then, maybe, or Paul, if you want to go ahead on what your points were.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, like different like willpower books have shown that exercising increases your willpower.
Really?
Yeah.
No wonder I'm so strong.
Yeah. Well, sorry. Were you gonna?
I was
jump
gonna.
right into it.
I was gonna funnel this into my system when I really want to be productive. Like, I don't really have a choice. There's a lot of things I have to do. I like to put into a system a time schedule that maximizes it. So I found out 55 minutes is a good length of time that...
Not 50?
Yeah, well, you experiment, and I found 55. I can push myself an extra 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's long enough that you can actually get some sizable stuff done, but not long enough that your brain is completely shot after that.
Oh, so you're saying exercising for 55 minutes?
All right, sorry, I'll tie in the exercising.
Oh, but your work.
This is
your
work.
task.
Yeah, just sitting down to do
minutes.
something.
So it's kind of like I don't know. Are you familiar with like deliberate practice type thing?
Not
They say like the best people in the world and stuff deliberately practice like 3 hours a day, and that's like the limit of how much you can do with the amount of like brain power and energy you have.
Yeah.
So you're kind of talking about like really stressful work you can only do for like 55 minutes without draining yourself.
Yeah. I like to have like 2 glasses of water while I'm going through those 55 minutes. I'll usually get through those, and yeah, it'll help a lot.
Okay, so like if you do have the essay, you set aside like 55 minutes to get it done.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it done, do you set another 55-minute block? or
All
what?
right, well, yeah, I do 55 minutes, and then I take a 10-minute break. And so this is anything to break the system. So get my eyes focused on something outside, maybe do some yoga, maybe do some ukulele, anything that
Oh yeah, I see that.
that kicks your brain in a different way, gives you some relaxation. Maybe go get a snack. But I make sure after those 10 minutes, I can get back. And actually, one thing I sometimes do is throw in a chore that I wouldn't normally do, but because it's my break, I enjoy doing it really fast and then coming back.
Oh, well, so for me, my breaks are see if she texts us back for the date as a confirmation or not. But yeah, chores are good too.
Yeah. And then I go back to the 55 minutes. And so if there's one task that you either really need to get done or you're just in the flow and you don't really interrupt that, you can go straight to that. But if you do have a little bit of flex there, you can actually start another task that maybe you would have been procrastinating on, but because you're committing to this time system, you're taking this break and then you're starting it, and you know you're only going to be working on it for 55 minutes, and then you'll take a break and then you'll do something else. So it's a lot easier to talk yourself into doing that. And it's the sort of thing where if it's something really hard or something you think will take a short time, maybe 30 minutes into it, you finish the first part of it, and you're like, okay, I'm done. Well, wait, I have 25 more minutes, so what else can I do on it? And so it actually pushes you to start the next step, which if you didn't have this 55-minute block, then you would have been, okay, I can take my 10 minutes now.
But it's also, at the same time, it's not too much.
Right.
So you're not just you don't just keep looking for the next step until you die, or until you complete it.
Yeah.
Right.
So you limit yourself.
There'll be an end to this madness.
Right.
But it's not too much that you aren't motivated to do it. So
and also during this process, you can be relaxed because under any other system, you're not going to be more efficient. There's nothing more you can be doing at this time. Getting 55 minutes out of 65 minutes of work, you can't shame yourself there. You are doing what you can do.
Yeah.
So that's for me, I don't like studying is hard enough, and then adding pressure why am I doing this, or any extra stress around it.
That's interesting. And you mentioned too that you sometimes have a snack after the 55 minutes.
Yeah. It's actually having snacks definitely helps.
There's been a lot. There's a lot of research on how an empty stomach. Even they say judges, if they start getting hungry, their decisions start changing.
Gotcha.
So having a full stomach and having blood sugar,
it
helps give you a lot of energy, and so you're more productive and stuff. And so that little break probably makes a big difference.
Definitely. Yeah. And so I try to go 3 cycles of this if I have a lot to do, and then I go take a longer break. So go run for 25 minutes or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's where I throw in my exercise, kind of have my larger break, and then I can go straight back into it if I feel like that's what I need to do.
Got it. Okay. Wow. All right. So that's exercise, kind of a little bit of diet in there. Did you have something about diet you want to say, Paul? Or
well, I'd say for people who are trying to get onto a diet, I've personally found that I've experimented a lot because I've been trying to gain weight for a while.
Yeah.
I find that when I'm most successful is when I have a very simple, plain diet that I eat every day.
Okay. So
where it's a habit. They're foods that I like that are healthy, because I think that a lot of people don't like to eat healthy foods, but there are healthy foods that people like to eat. So you have to you just buy a lot of one thing and you make it a habit to eat that same thing every day. Some people can't do that because they can't stand not having the variety in food, but I found personally that I work best when I just keep stuff simple and plain. Same thing for breakfast every morning, same thing when I get back from school. And so in diet wise, it's really diet is so underrated. I mean, when you're eating well, you just feel happy. You feel like you have a lot of energy and stuff.
Yeah.
And when you're not eating well, you don't know why you don't feel that way.
Yeah.
People don't put it together. But diet's so important, and just for your long-term health, and just for how you feel in the short term.
Yeah. Right.
Energy wise.
Yeah. Steve, is there something that you do about diet necessarily for productivity, or
nothing? I just try and eat clean. I don't eat anything manufactured.
Right.
There's also great apps you can use and stuff too. There's apps that scan barcodes on foods, and they tell you how many calories, how much sodium, how much sugar it has. I did it for a little bit, and I remember the first week I looked at it, and it gives you health tips, and it's you had 15,000 milligrams of sodium in excess. And I was like, shoot.
Yeah. I guess another thing on the food, either you can have like 3 big meals or you can break it down. So I've heard, like, if you have a workout regimen, it's a lot better to have like 5 smaller meals, and so you're getting you have consistent energy levels throughout the day.
That's a great point.
Yeah, consistent energy.
And I'm pretty sure research has shown that like testosterone goes up, metabolism speeds up when you eat more meals in a day. Like when I guess sumo wrestlers are the total opposite of what you want to be, and all they do is that they eat tons of food 1 meal a day, and that's how they get so big. Yeah, they just eat tons in 1 meal.
Really? Wow.
But, maybe some of them eat
like
too,
they're not bulimic. I wonder, like they just can hold it down.
Well, they're obviously not bulimic by
yeah,
their size.
I mean, I guess you don't know about that. That didn't go out right. What I guess I'm saying is like, yeah, that did not go out right. No, what I'm saying is that, like, in bulimia, you eat a lot of food hoping that your body will just throw it all up, right?
Right.
And you have no control over it. Like because you have eaten so much food, your body throws it up. But my question is if sumo wrestlers are doing the same thing, they're eating a lot in 1 meal, how do they prevent that involuntary reflux response?
Well, I don't think it's involuntary reflux most of the time. But I think a lot of it is them like forcing themselves to throw up. Bulimic people.
Okay, that's a misconception I had. I thought it was like I just thought like
it was because they ate so much they threw up.
Yeah.
No, it's voluntary, but it probably becomes involuntary until it becomes a habit.
Okay.
And they just can't stop, and that's eating disorder. So.
Yeah. I understand, but I thought. My bad. I just thought it was involuntary. But anyway,
because take for example someone who does like a food eating contest. They don't. A lot of times, I don't think that they puke the stuff up afterward.
Right.
By the way, if you're trying to eat a ton of food at once, part of the secret is drinking tons of water. The people who do this drink tons of water.
Okay.
Here.
I'll keep that.
So Nick's all set to go into his eating career, I guess.
Yeah, I have like a 60-ounce water bottle in front of me right now.
Have you ever suffered from bulimia? Well, involuntary.
No. But anyways, yeah. So basically, we're saying don't do the one-stop shop. Kind of space out your meals throughout the day.
Yeah.
And
definitely,
keep your energy a level high. I guess my question for you guys is, I know, like, for me, I'll like feel solid in the morning. I'll just like burn through all this work, but like come 7 p.m., things just shut down for me. Like, I can't muster the willpower to get anything done, even though I really need to get stuff done sometimes.
Right, yeah.
Any tips?
Yeah, actually that was the topic I wanted to bring up, was relaxation. Eating, diet, and relaxation are all 3 big parts of it. And for one, hitting 7 o'clock, a lot of people are really tired, and your body does have a limit on how much you can accomplish in a day. But there definitely are people that are able to accomplish stuff throughout the day, and I think the way you do it is by having a relaxation plan. Like, I find that myself, I will sometimes feel exactly like you are. Actually, almost every day I feel exhausted by 7 o'clock if I did a lot. And I find personally that meditation or just some sort of relaxation, like even hypnosis, like
really?
You can do guided hypnosis on YouTube and stuff. But that you spend like 20 minutes. Some people even take naps during the day, but I don't find those nearly as effective.
But we were saying with hypnosis, or take 20 minutes for what?
20 minutes for, I think meditation is the best, and you just do deep breathing and you focus on something, like either the present, or you focus on your breathing or on sounds around you. And what happens is you're kind of is a revival, like a renewal of your energy. And a lot of times, like, I'll feel exhausted, I'll do that, and then I'll have a lot more energy to go. And I'll keep going. And whenever I get held up, I'll sit down and do that. The one thing, though, is if you are like truly exhausted and you try to meditate, you'll just fall asleep.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, I guess, if you have to do a lot, then it is.
Yeah, and if you're gonna like take a nap, which a lot of people do, I like what I've always heard is limit it to 20 minutes. And another trick that some people do are caffeine naps. where you drink caffeine before you go to sleep.
Okay.
And then 20 minutes you wake up and you're like feeling good. Because a lot of times what I find with 20-minute naps is like I don't want to wake up, and I like tell my body, make all these excuses in my head like, I don't really have to have a presentation tomorrow. Like, and so I end up sleeping for 4 more hours. It's awful.
Yeah. So I've always had this lingering theory in the back of my mind where, so 7 p.m. hits, you're like tired, but like your favorite TV show is on, and like all of a sudden you're just awake, and like you can watch like a marathon of the whole thing. Like you can keep going. Or like, I forget the book, but there's an example. I think it was How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. He gives an example of like the girl comes home, like she's just really tired from school and stuff, and then like the boyfriend calls.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she can party till like 3 a.m. Which I know that type of like energy has happened to me, like where I'm like so tired, but all of a sudden it's like Super Smash Bros. Melee contest? Oh my god!
Or it's like where you're full and then you see ice cream. It's like, okay, I can eat that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess my question to you guys is like, can you like trick your body into thinking like, oh sweet, like I get to write about Jane Austen? Like,
do you want to this first, or you want me to? Or
one of the things I wanted to talk about maybe a little later is the pain-pleasure principle and how you can sort of align that to help you accomplish things that might involve. But, if you want to.
Well, okay, so a lot of research has shown that we have way more energy, and like we have this reservoir of extra energy that we have, but our body starts giving up long before our actual energy supplies give up. There was this one podcast that you showed me actually, where they have that bike competition, and they quickly learned that they can keep going a lot further beyond what their body is telling them. Like their mind's telling them stop. Like you don't have to do this. And to them, sometimes like your heart's racing so much, and you just feel so exhausted, you feel like you have to give up. But a lot of times we're not even close to like that threshold where we die.
Right. that podcast, by the way, that's by Radiolab, and they talk about a runner, and they also talk about a biker, and both of these guys there's a girl biker and a guy biker, and they are like just channeled completely out of energy, and basically through these psychological tricks they're able to like keep going. So if you want to explore more about that. But Steve, you were going to say something. I kind of cut you off a little bit. I'm sorry.
I've actually thought of a couple things. I don't know if I remember all of them. Yeah. I totally agree with the relaxation. You have to have full compression and full expansion. So you want to make sure you're getting enough sleep and then hit it really when you wake up.
You're also talking about pain and pleasure.
About exercise. That's another good reason. Or if you look at the most productive people in the world, like if you look at the Anthony Robbins, the Richard Bransons, or like any really top achievers, they have a steady workout. And so I think a lot of, not only does it energize their body, but it teaches those types of lessons.
Right,
you can break through that extra barrier.
Yeah, if you have discipline in exercise, you're kind of exercising your discipline for other things such as work.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, all right, so the pain-pleasure principle, this is something, I don't know if you guys know much about Tony Robbins.
Oh, yeah. I love Tony Robbins. I read every one of his books.
So this is going to be old news to you. Have you read Awakening the Giant Within?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
all right, so...
Best one.
Oh, good. With the pain-pleasure principle, it's the idea that you're going to have mental associations around certain actions or things, and they're not necessarily going to be true, so we ask you to analyze those. And essentially, like if there's something that you feel like you really need to get done, but you don't want to do it, one way is to switch what pain and pleasure you're associating with it. So, for example, you need to study for a test or something. Well, you can think about what type of person you ultimately want to become, like what type of lifestyle you want, what type of job, and then you can bring that back. Okay, to get to there, I'm going to need to graduate. To graduate, I'm going to need to get through the semester. And if you really emphasize that, you can make the inaction very painful and action very pleasurable.
Okay.
And
so it's like seeing the goal, the ultimate goal. Where is this all leading to? And then breaking that goal down to where you're at right now and how that mini step is going to get you ultimately there.
Right. And if you really think of it powerfully, then you will be driven. It won't be like you pulling yourself. You will be driven to complete this task because you're like, okay, this is what I need to do to become who I am, and what's more exciting than that?
Got it.
Sort of
Okay.
deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's actually really interesting that you brought that up, because I think the pain pleasure thing is really important in a system or whatever, in a time management system. Like one thing I was going to mention is I think it's really important that your system is in some way like pleasure producing. If you're not getting pleasure from it, you're going to quit like right away, because it's just going to be painful to get all this stuff done. And so one guy who I like to read on the internet a lot talks about how, I mentioned this earlier, is like how Olympic athletes don't just train all the time. They will train in bursts. Like they'll train for like 3 hours a day or so, and then they relax the rest of the day. So I think it's important. Like one thing I do with my system is I have some like rules that I find are really important. Like one rule is I never work after 8:30.
Really?
Ever.
That's
And so I get everything done before then, and because I have that rule that I never work after 8:30, I have something to look forward to. I feel like I get pleasure from that reward of and during that time, I just totally relax and do whatever I want to. Like if I want to just eat everything in the fridge, I do it. If I want to or I'll take a nap. But after that time, nothing matters that I do. I can do whatever I want. Like I can watch like Netflix, like for like a couple hours.
Okay,
or something.
well, I gotta flip this on your head for you. Let's say you have like an essay due on Friday, and because you're maybe like you didn't have a very productive week, so 8:30 comes on Thursday night, and you don't have the essay done. What happens?
Well, I think that having the rule for 8:30 makes it so that you have to prepare in advance. And so, like, let's just say that your hypothetical situation happens. I think that you can make exceptions to it on rare occasions, but as soon as you start making exceptions every day, then it's like the rule doesn't have any power over you anymore.
Right.
So I mean, if there's times when we're so busy that we can't take stuff off, and we just can't not work after 8:30, and so on those times you just want to limit those so it's not often. One thing actually that kind of corresponds with it is having a streak going. Having a streak, like every day when you wake up and you see like number on the wall, like 80 or something, and then let's say your streak is for working out. You've worked out 80 times in a row without missing a day, and then it gets you to keep going. And what happens initially is you get kind of that reward of like, oh, another day. But once you get to like 100, which I got to one time, it's like I don't want to miss a day because I don't want to go back to like the single digits again.
Yeah, you're at triple. Yeah, okay, got it. All right.
And so that kind of goes along with that.
And bragging purposes.
Yeah, so it's a really have something that really rewards you. Like sometimes just checking stuff really rewards you. Sometimes seeing a streak on the wall, and then having that relaxation time. And I even sometimes do like a day off each week, where I just like hang out with people and just relax and do whatever I want to, and I don't stress myself. Like a lot of people do that with diets too. Like you have a cheat day where you can eat anything, and a lot of people find that really helpful.
Yeah. One general rule that I found helpful in life in general is to accentuate the positive and acknowledge the negative. So that allows you to like get excited about what you're doing well and build momentum in that sense, but you're also not pretending like the negative doesn't exist.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah. Some people try to like pretend the negative doesn't exist, and they know that they're just lying to themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Okay, so we got about a little bit less than 10 minutes left. Was there another topic that you guys want to talk about a little bit first, or?
Well, first off, do you have anything?
I'm trying to see if I had more.
One thing I thought I could bring up is talking about productivity in the school university arena, and like some tricks you can use to really manage your time better, get your work done, and do well on tests.
Yeah, definitely. Let's dive in.
Yeah, so like in the past, I never came across these like systems for using in school, and I probably did way more work, worked way harder, and got worse grades than I do. So, like once I figured out some of these like tricks and stuff, I barely have to work in some of my classes at all because these tricks like really just help you grasp the information a lot faster.
Yeah.
So, like, the first thing that a lot of people don't do and that teachers always tell you should do is understand, like, actually try to understand, like, what's going on. First off, what happens when you do that is the stuff's way more interesting. So, like, let's take, like, math, for example. A lot of people think math concepts are really, like, abstract. Like, the derivative is really, like, this abstract term that you have to apply this formula for. But, so, like, when I was learning the derivative, I actually tried to understand what it really was. Like, how would I, as a normal person, come up with a formula to find the slope of a curved line?
Right.
And it really actually is quite intuitive. You have a tangent and secant line, and it's like the limit as it approaches the tangent line.
Right, yeah.
And then you have that whole formula stuff. And so, like, I try to understand what's actually happening. Like, why do you square this? Why do you take the square root of that? And when you do that, like, all of a sudden math, what used to be a bunch of symbols, is now this simple picture. Like, nothing in math is actually that complicated. It's just a matter of deciphering it. Debatable. Yeah. It's complicated.
Why did you avoid engineering? No.
Wait till differential equations.
Well, I mean, it's complicated, but it's always complicated in simple ways. Like, simple things build up to create a giant picture.
Yeah, I agree with you. I kind of believe that actually nothing is complicated, but things that are complicated are just seemingly multiple simple steps. Many multiple simple steps to get there.
Exactly. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So unless you get to Jane Austen, but anyways, yeah, that's the only.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to speed this up a little bit. But like, based on that principle, first thing, like, a lot of people do root memorization. A lot of people do root notes. Like, the teacher writes, like, a PowerPoint and they copy everything word for word. Just, like, stop doing that and stop trying to memorize stuff. Like, actually try to learn it. If you can't understand, like, what happens, I do something, I write, like, scaffold, and I write the concept that I don't know about on the side. And then after the lecture, I do this thing called the Feynman technique, where I take the thing and I write it and then I put a line under it, and then I try to teach it to someone else, even though I don't understand it. And what you'll find, like, when you teach something to someone, you have to fully understand it. You can't have any holes in your understanding.
Yeah.
So you start to try to teach it, and you start recognizing, like, oh, there's a hole there, there's a hole here, and it's really amazing because you'll have these really hard concepts to understand. You'll start trying to teach it to someone, like some fake person, like arbitrary fake person, and it's a little excessive.
You may appear psychotic. Do this in the room only.
And like that. I mean, that's just a huge tip. Is, like, always be able to teach the information to someone else. If you can't do that, then you don't fully understand it, and you'll find holes in it.
Okay.
Sorry, just an interesting point. In preparing for a podcast like this, I have to make sure, like, the techniques I have are in head, so it's sort of like teaching in a way. So I think, like, this is helpful for me just to go over it again, even though it's stuff I use.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do you mind spelling the Feynman? Like, so how do you spell that?
Okay, so Feynman. Feynman is like a pretty famous theoretical physicist. And
Richard Feynman.
Richard Feynman, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, what's interesting about him is he had, like, a high IQ of, like, 120, yet he made, like, some of the biggest changes to physics and math of anyone.
I still have hope. Okay, got it.
Okay. But he was a really interesting guy, and, like, he used this technique. He didn't make the technique himself and, like, call it the Feynman technique. Someone else who read his book noticed that he did this. Like, he would go on campus, and he had this game he played with people in totally different subjects than he was in, and he would ask them to explain the most complicated thing that they knew to him, and then he would be able to tell them, like, explain it back to them and come up with the same conclusions they did in, like, less than a minute because he had gotten so good at this technique.
Wow. Okay, so we have like 4 or 5 minutes left. Was there another part to your university's?
Yeah. So I'll just make it real quick, but big thing is, like, connecting ideas together. Like, smart people just connect stuff together. So, one way you can do that is just make lines, but when two things are related, connect them together. Also, come up with metaphors to explain stuff. Like I've heard for the limit, you know, you have like a creepy guy who's like likes this girl, and he keeps trying to get closer and closer and closer until she gets a restraining order, and then you have this asymptote. Watch it. Okay, so there's that, and then so take notes in like webs, make up metaphors. It helps you remember, and learn mnemonic devices for memorization.
Yeah.
And so never root memorize anything. Like there's so many programs out there like Quizlet, like flashcards are so much better than just trying to memorize.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, not to interrupt, but just to add to that, I think one thing I've read a lot, and frequently in many books, is that humans are geared to be more social than logical creatures. We're just more adept in social situations. People have commonly taken math problems and translated them to social situations where, like, this person knows this and this person doesn't know that. Does the third person know this, or something like that? Versus, if X is here and Y is not there, then where is Z, or something like that? And so I think what you were saying earlier about, like, the limit and the creepy guy and the girl, if you have a more social analogy that you relate to your problem or your concept, it's much easier for your mind to grasp it because of how your mind is structured to be more social.
Right, and I'd add to that like more visual too.
Right.
In pictures, not symbols and logic formulas.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely right on.
Yeah. So.
Okay, I have 3 points real fast.
Okay.
Let's see it.
You were talking about how you can connect things visually. There's a program I like to use called FreeMind, and it's essentially mind mapping. And so, it helps you be more creative in the way you connect things, and you can branch out continuously. So it's really easy, slick to use.
FreeMind.
Yeah. And then in terms of taking notes, I've used Cornell system before. It's
Cornell system?
Cornell system, yeah.
Okay.
You draw a line down the side of your page and then a line on the bottom. You take your notes on the majority of the page, and then when you review it afterwards, you write a summary of what you think that page, the key concept of that page at the bottom, and then you write yourself questions about key parts. Like, even if you understand it right now, you can ask yourself, you can write a question to find that answer later.
Wow. Okay.
Or you can actually say, okay, what is this question I need to ask the professor?
Yeah.
It's really related to teaching, because like when you write the main concepts of what happened, it's kind of like you're teaching it to yourself, and you can go back and like look at it again.
Because you have to understand to break it down.
Yeah, you have to understand it. Yeah.
And then the last one was, there's this phrase I heard recently: if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. So this can kind of help you. This will give you over the hump, and then like the worst case scenario is that you get it done. The best case scenario is that you actually get into it and like do it at a really high standard.
Especially perfectionists. I mean, everyone says like it's not worth doing unless you're going to do it well, and perfectionists just won't do anything.
Right.
And so just do it poorly, and like if you just start a task, most of the time you'll easily just get in a flow and just finish it.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, unfortunately, that was all the time we have. But this was a very productive conversation. Paul, Steve, and I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thanks a lot.
I really appreciate your input. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll be back next week. Thanks.